Squidward in Clarinetland was a very odd and interesting episode. This takes place in Season 7, Episode 7. And the reason I ended up watching this episode of Squidward in Clarinetland is because somebody in the comment section of my last video, Sandy Cheeks' Rocket, recommended it to me. Now I want you also to know that all the episodes that stem from Season 6 onwards, I haven't really seen much of, and I also consider that to be the newer SpongeBob episodes. Now Squidward in Clarinetland starts off extraordinarily weird as Squidward is going to work super happy and high-spirited. Now this is all due to his upcoming clarinet recital. And if you know anything about SpongeBob, we all know Squidward is grumpy, but there's one thing in the world he loves more than anything else, and that is his clarinet. Now on the way to the cash register, there is so many things that go wrong that would normally upset Squidward or cause him to go off in a frantic rage. But due to this recital, he keeps his cool. Then this is where this ladyfish walks in with her baby. The baby squirts her entire bottle on Squidward's clarinet, but due to it being in a case, it was safe, and this is where the mother apologizes. However, Squidward shows her that his clarinet is safe, and this is where her mouth begins to water, and that water droplet lands on it, and this is what sends Squidward over the edge. What I really like about this scene right here is the fact that when Squidward goes over the edge, you clearly see Mr. Krabs go, "Ah, yes, Squidward, you're back to normal." Now this is where Squidward goes off on Mr. Krabs, basically telling him, "Hey, have you ever heard anything about Bikini Bottom's labor laws?" Which I'm actually pretty surprised they haven't come down really hard on Mr. Krabs. Have you seen the conditions these two work in? Squidward basically informs Mr. Krabs that all employees must have a place to store their personal belongings. And this is where Mr. Krabs comes out of pocket and somehow pulls out this old locker. Now this locker looks gross, it's disgusting, and inside the locker has a skeleton. And after they ask who this skeleton is, Mr. Krabs basically confirms it was one of his old war buddies. So after they place the locker down, SpongeBob comes up and says, are they going to share this locker? But then Mr. Krabs, being the cheapskate he is, throws the labor laws back into Squidward's face, making it that they have to share. Now this is where SpongeBob goes off in full Toon Force and comes to clean this locker. Man, we literally see him fill himself up with a bucket of water, take off his entire face, and blast this entire locker, instantly cleaning it. Which obviously makes Squidward happy as the locker is going to be cleaned. Now this is where things start to take a turn. SpongeBob keeps adding different things to the locker. He even walks through the front door of the Krusty Krab with all these tools and everything going to the back room where the locker is. Squidward watching in awe, trying to figure out what exactly is SpongeBob doing. This is where we come to see that somehow SpongeBob was able to turn this locker into a giant storage unit with literal files all over the place, as you can see here on screen. It's pretty crazy what SpongeBob can do with his Toon Force power. In another scene, Squidward goes back to working at the cash register. Now as he's doing this, we get to hear a lot of noises as if a lot of workmanship is being done in the back room. Squidward eventually goes to check and realizes SpongeBob has moved his clarinet in multiple places, and then Squidward finds a magical little hole at the bottom. As Squidward crawls through the little gap in the hole, this is where he gets taken by surprise. He enters a mysterious forest made of clarinets known as Clarinetland. As he's walking through this forest, he encounters a giant bald eagle head. Not a body, just a head. And this is where Squidward encounters the Clarinet Keeper. Now, this eagle's talking in a really deep, intense voice, and imparts some very interesting lessons on Squidward about respect for clarinets and insists that clarinets cannot be owned, which causes Squidward to tremble in his pants, even though he doesn't wear pants, but you get what I'm saying. And this is where the bald eagle grabs him with his tongue and literally swallows him. As Squidward ends up in the bald eagle's belly, somehow SpongeBob's silhouette is there holding the clarinet, giggling. Now a whole bunch of different scenarios start to play off. One of these scenes in particular is when there's this giant pinball machine that Squidward falls into, gets popped out, and then gets sucked up by a vacuum. He then explodes in there, and we get a reality check. Apparently Squidward fell asleep inside the locker, and he's now overwhelmed with pressure for the recital that's coming up, and he's just broken at this little point. And this is where SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs literally walk back into the Krusty Krab and see Squidward there on the floor in pain, crying. SpongeBob, obviously doing the thing he does, asks Squidward if he's okay, and then Squidward says, "Where's my clarinet?" You know, in this kind of broken voice, and SpongeBob hands him the clarinet, basically saying, "I knew this was important to you, so I kept it on me to make sure it was safe." Squidward then panics and goes off in another rage, locks SpongeBob inside the locker, sends the locker out on a little journey of its own, and then we skip forward in time to Squidward's recital. As Squidward is about to play his clarinet, he opens up his case and sees SpongeBob, then he panics, yells, and runs out of the recital. SpongeBob laughs and then pulls out the clarinet saying, I just had the clarinet here to give you, basically. Now this episode was very interesting for me as I haven't watched a lot of the newer episodes, and again, I consider all the episodes from season 6 upwards kind of new. For me at least, I could see a difference in humor in the way the story is told. It literally reminded me of a lot of the other Cartoon Network shows that came on later in the years. For example, Amazing World World of Gumball or Adventure Time. So have you watched this episode? If you have, let me know in the comment section below, what is your favorite part?